It's 1998, and Half-Life is just released to the world. 8 years later, I'm born. Now, at 17, I'm diving into this classic for the first time. People around me swear it's one of the most influential games ever, and I actually believe them. By all accounts, this game was incredibly ambitious for its time, and was seemingly executed well given its success. But what I want to know is, does it hold up as a game that's worth playing today? That's what I'm here to find out. And I'm doing it in VR. Why VR? Well, why not? I thought it'd be fun. Was it? I'm only on the train, but I think I can understand what was so alluring about this game back then. Though I spent the whole ride poking fun at every scientist I saw, the ride had really good world building, and the attention to detail in the animations I played during it were certainly welcoming. If I was playing this in 1998, I'd be amazed. Mostly because I wasn't alive, but also because the game is really good. The elephant in the room though is that this game looks terrible, especially so in VR. But I'm not going to dwell too hard on that unless it actually impedes on the gameplay. I'm not really a stickler for super good graphics, just make a fun game and I'm in, but I thought I'd mention it. We make it to the science lab, learn that we're Gordon Freeman, a new recruit to the team who is going to do an experiment today. We walk through the halls filled with scientists until we make it to our locker and put on our hazard suit. I think it's a really funny touch, but also really good characterization, that none of the scientists want to speak to me until after the experiment is complete. Why are you so nervous, We suit up, make it to the test chamber, do what's asked of us, and everything goes wrong. This scene is fucking sick. The intensity of setting up the experiment, the chaos of its failure, and teleporting to Zen as a result of the Renaissance Cascade really makes this scene work. Unfortunately, the moment kinda got ruined for me because I didn't know how to jump until I got stuck in a hole for a couple minutes. I can't fucking jump! I figured out how to jump, and now we have to escape the compound. We kill a bunch of monsters that spawn from the Resonance Cascade, watch a bunch of scientists die, and complete a few easy puzzles. From this point onward, the game literally feels like a horror game. The cold, constant ambiance and background noises filled with screams of scientists being killed by monsters is really good even all these years later, though I'm not sure it was made with the intention of spooking me as much as it did. After exploring various areas, I start seeing signs that there might not actually be just monsters in here. Oh god, why is there mines and trip mines? What the fuck? The military showed up, not to save us, but to kill all the scientists in an attempt to cover up the mistake they made. Coming from just having played a Pokemon game, this was incredibly refreshing. Genuinely thought-provoking writing? Where the fuck was that when I played 14 hours of Pokemon Shield? I also want to point out that the combat of this game is really fun in VR if you can play it right. Aiming with the guns is a little difficult because your head model never properly lines up with where your bullets are actually supposed to go, but smacking the shit out of monsters with the crowbar is really fun, and the new added targets of the military boys really makes it shine. To me, the combat in VR is actually more engaging than the combat in the regular game, but it loses some of its allure, which we'll get into in a second. After more time struggling to escape, I encounter my least favorite part of the game. Tentacle. The puzzle is objectively not that bad. I genuinely would have no problem with this problem if it weren't for the fact that I'm playing it in VR. The parts of this game that involve precise movement are not easy to do in VR, and this part of the game has a lot of it. It also didn't help that I basically had to do it twice by accident because I forgot to press 2 buttons instead of just 1 in one of the rooms. Why do I have to press both? Tell me I have to press both, please! It also didn't help my mental that the tentacles were so damn loud. This puzzle ended up taking me an hour. Yes, an hour. But eventually I send a rocket that ends its life. This was kind of the start of me getting a little frustrated with this game. After that we meet Gargantua, who is refreshingly not nearly as hard, so we get past him with ease. Thank God. But after him we have to deal with the cart section of this game. This section is one of the few times I actually have to criticize the game's graphics. I got so lost so many fucking times during this section. Usually I chalk me getting lost in games to just a plain lack of skill or me misunderstanding something, but there was so many dead ends in this section that took tons of time to complete that I had to start using a guide. Not to mention, at this point in the game, the combat started to actually get hard. The fun crowbar every enemy strategy stopped working because there was 10 zombies in every room, so I saw myself having to constantly quicksave every 2 seconds to make sure I didn't lose any progress. I started to get more than a little annoyed at the game at this point. Oh yeah, and for the record, this game is still scary as fuck. Oh my god! We make it to the launch site and send a rocket that closes the portal that the monsters have been using to come to Earth, but that doesn't solve our problems. Speaking of problems being solved, I solved one of mine. I turned on God mode. Yes, I know. It took me a while to get to the point where I felt it was necessary, but one thing you really get an appreciation for when you play this game in VR is how physically taxing it really is. I'm not someone who gets motion sick playing VR games. It just doesn't happen to me like that. But this game still made me feel terrible in so many different ways. Failing to get up a small ladder for over a minute, missing jumps and feeling like you're falling 30 feet only to have to try to jump again right after, and a bunch of other minute things, they made me feel so claustrophobic in so many parts of this game. So turning on God mode made it so that I had to stress less about repeating those parts of the game, and it ultimately ended up being the right decision. If you think that this clouds my judgment of the game, just trust me, it really doesn't. I played over 5 hours of the game with it, and 5 hours without it. I can confidently say that it was good with both, but better with God mode on. Moving on, we're told that we need to reach the Lambda complex by some scientists, so we try to make our way through. Unfortunately, we get caught by some military men and we have to start anew, but we cleverly navigate through the sewage systems and conveyor systems to make our way there. We escape the science lab compound, and now we have to deal with the military stationed outside. This part of the game is really fun and strategical if you don't play with God mode, but if you do play with God mode, it's just really fun. I kind of wish I wasn't in VR in this section, because it's mostly about being sneaky and strategical, two things that are kind of hard when you have terrible aim and you're trying to progress quickly. I make it to the cliffs and get blessed with the song from the Valve intro. I don't know why it hadn't clicked in my mind that this was an actual song, but it helped me gain a new appreciation for it, so that's cool. We make it to the outside of the Lambda complex and face some, what I would consider, objectively pretty bad puzzles. Like, movement challenges associated with playing in VR aside, it was still super confusing to figure out where I was supposed to go in this teleporter section. I'm so glad Valve got their shit together with the Portal series when it came to making puzzles. Oh, also, I got stuck on a ladder for 30 fucking minutes. Seriously, 30 full fucking minutes. Each time I felt like I was falling 20 feet, so it was not pleasant. I believe the jump was actually impossible in the settings I was using at the time, so I had to change it. This experience solidified two things for me. One, I should not have played this game in VR. It was becoming genuine torture. And two, the level design of this game is really questionable. We make it to the Lambda core and discuss our final plans with some scientists. Essentially, we're going to go to the home planet of the monsters that have been attacking us and destroy the, to put it frank, final boss of the game to stop the invasion. Well, let's do it, I guess. We make it to Zen and I'm immediately loving it. Maybe it's just because I've been conditioned to be in a horror environment for the past 7 hours, but it was so refreshing to actually have an open space that wasn't filled with military equipment. The change made it feel like it was the definitive final place of this game, which was really cool. I traversed through some islands, with moderate PTSD due to seeing the tentacle again, but eventually I make it to the final boss. Again, I find myself feeling kind of stupid for doing this in VR, and especially with God mode on, though God mode was definitely required. The boss fight definitely loses a lot of its allure when you're playing it in VR, because you're just not spending as much time looking at the details of the game. And I also find it kind of true that it was much harder in VR. The boss itself isn't really that hard in the regular game, but finding out how it was supposed to be played while navigating through the VR world was stressful. Ultimately, I think it was a good final boss, but playing it in VR kind of hindered it. But it was kind of funny to throw all those grenades in his head. We beat the final boss, and now the G-Man has come to inform us that he has been watching us. He is the man running this whole operation, and he gives us two options. Join him, or die. I decide to die. But then I realized that the credits don't roll if you do that, so join him it is! Now the credits finally roll. Having now played the game, let's go through my final statements on it. Starting first with my experience of the game. Let's just say this up front, you should not play Half-Life in VR as your first experience with the game. I think I've made it pretty clear that the game is very physically taxing, and I think that detracts from the value of the game, especially if you don't know where to go. If you have played it before, I think that this would be a great way to get back into it, because you wouldn't have to worry about, oh, where do I go? I have a 30-minute time limit before my body collapses playing this game. Let's get through this shit quick. As for the actual game itself, I have nothing but praise for it for the most part. Obviously, the graphics and level design hurt the game in some ways, but I'm not going to beat the dead horse. The combat is fun, the atmosphere is sick, and the music is good. In my opinion, the game is damn good. But one thing you may have noticed if you watch my videos is that I really like to dig into the stories of these games. So why haven't I been doing that? Well, to put it bluntly, it's really hard to critique this game's story when it's so vague. With other Valve games like Portal, the story is integrated really well into the actions you take, and to an extent that's true here. But in this game I felt as though the story didn't really need to be there. The implications of the story choices it sets up, like the military trying to kill us, set the foundations for a really cool story. But we don't actually spend a lot of time exploring these themes, and the ethics of our action, especially as it relates to the final decision of the game, is something that could easily be ignored by the people playing it, so I think they should have expanded upon that greatly. I know that the plot of the game has already been expanded upon greatly, and there are other versions of Half-Life 1, but I'm here to critique this game, and as it stands, it's not really possible to. I guess I'm just gonna have to play Half-Life 2, hey? Oh god, there's a VR mod for it. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I always get really worried when I upload videos like this because they just take so long to make, and I really want you guys to enjoy these videos, but what I've come to the realization is that I don't really care as much as I think I do. I always hated myself in the past because I'd never have stuff to look back on for the old games I played. I never wrote anything, I never made any videos on them in the past. So having this outlet, having this channel to do that is really cool, and I'm just gonna keep doing it the way I want to do it. Rant aside, I hope you guys have a good day. I hope you love the video.